Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. It's just wonderful to see an industry come together and express a real commitment to sustainability. Like Caitlin was saying, I've been fortunate enough to manage sustainability in the real estate sector, the retail sector, and now the food service packaging sector. And what I've seen across those three industries is that I think there can be the most success when an organization asks itself seriously, how can we be an agent of change within our core business model, right? Not tinkering at the edges, not taking a cookie cutter approach, but really taking a hard look at the business and asking some hard questions and seeing opportunity. So what I'm going to share today is how EcoProducts approaches sustainability. I'm not saying that this is how it would work for you or should work for you, but hopefully seeing an example in depth may spark some ideas or just be of help in some way. So with that, I wanted to share just a little bit more about EcoProducts. We are the first to admit that sustainable disposables is an oxymoron. We're not going to deny that or sugarcoat that at all. But we also know that disposables aren't going away anytime soon, right? Whether it's events like this or a baseball game at places like Coors Field or a grab-and-go restaurant when you're cruising through the airport, disposables are here at least for the foreseeable future. And we know that our current model of taking petroleum, our most valuable non-renewable resource, making it into a product that's going to get used for 10 minutes and go to the landfill forever is a linear, non-sustainable model, right? And so we believe that there has to be a better way. We are a B2B company, so we sell compostable plates, to-go cups, or to-go containers, cups, cutlery, et cetera, to sports and concert venues, to corporate campuses, to restaurants. Around here, you'll find our products at Red Rocks, the Convention Center, the Performing Arts Center, and all sorts of restaurants all around town. But we are nationwide. And we're not the cheapest. Certainly styrofoam's a lot cheaper than we are, but even within the green packaging space, we're not the cheapest either. And that's because we have a value proposition with more to it than just the cups, right? So when it comes, and I'm gonna get into kind of the specifics of waste diversion and how it relates to our industry in a bit, but this is not a simple issue, and there's a lot more to it. So for example, and this slide really lays out our value proposition. And so a big piece of that is advocacy. We sell a lot of compostable products that end up in the landfill because the community does not have a commercial composter who can process that material. On the board of the U.S. Composting Council to try to change that. These are infrastructure big problems, big challenges. EcoProducts can't do it alone. So industry engagement and advocacy is huge for us. Bundle, we have the broadest assortment of compostable food service packaging. We do a lot of custom work, so a restaurant can put their own label and branding on the cup. And then we offer services beyond that. So actually, you know what, I'm gonna get into that more later on another slide. But suffice it to say that when we look at our potential and our role in the disposables industry, we see it as a much bigger opportunity than just the product that ends up at the customer's location. Just a quick little overview about our product line. So we actually have two lines. One we call our Green Stripe line, and this is the line that's made with renewable resources, and most of those are commercially compostable. I see some of you drinking out of our water glasses here. And then we also have a Blue Stripe line, which is made with post-consumer recycled content. We don't say one is better than the other. It really both have pluses and minuses. It really all depends on what's important to the customer and what they have access to in terms of composting and recycling. Well, a lot of our sustainability work is centered around the issue of food waste and commercial composting. In the US, we waste 40% of our food every year in our country. 40%. And we send more food than anything else to the landfill. So if you were to go to a landfill and watch the trucks roll in all day long and dump their stuff in the landfill, there would be more food coming off of those trucks than paper, than plastic, than random whatever, right? And today we're only composting 5% of our wasted food. So this is a problem because when food goes to a well, first of all, we have hungry people, right, that need to be fed. Second of all, when food goes to a landfill, it gets buried at the end of every day, and as it rots, it emits methane, which is a greenhouse gas that's over 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So there is a direct link between food waste and climate change. And we need healthy soil to grow plants for landscaping, right? And instead of taking food and turning it into soil to grow more plants, which would be a virtuous cycle, we're sending it to the landfill where it can create greenhouse gases, right? Not a good system we have going on. The good thing is that states and municipalities are starting to take notice. They're starting to say that if you're a food service operation of a certain size, you can no longer send your food scraps to the landfill. So this is good, but we still don't have enough infrastructure to manage and process all of those organics. So you might be wondering, okay, well, how does this all fit in to EcoProducts? And the way that we see it is that compostable packaging such as ours is a vehicle for keeping food scraps out of landfills. And I'll ask you a question, I think this can help illustrate it. The next time that you are in a place where in a public place, where you see a recycling bin and a trash bin, and maybe not at a place like here where people here are pretty enlightened and environmentally aware, but at an airport, for example, look in the recycling bin, look in the landfill bin, and see if you could tell which is which if you didn't see right? You could flip the signs and it wouldn't matter. People are so bad at sorting materials into different bins, we just throw everything in one bin and keep going. And so that's why compostable packaging can play a huge role, because the packaging and the food scraps all goes in the same bin. It all goes to the commercial composter, not asking people to separate, right? So it makes waste diversion much, much easier. And there's been some great research lately that has basically validated what we've been advocating for a long time. There was a report last year called ReFed, which stands for Rethink Food Waste Through Economics and Data, that really looked at the issue of wasted food. And they outlined 27 solutions for reducing that 40% of wasted food every year. And of those 27 solutions for keeping food out of landfills, commercial composting had the greatest potential by far. So that was music to our ears, right? It validated, yes, we are a part of this huge, the solution to this huge problem. There was another report called the New Plastics Economy that really put a fine point on the challenges we're facing with single-use plastic packaging globally. And they recommended that for food service applications, compostables are the way to go. Again, because you're not going to get people to try to separate materials, and it's also really hard to recycle used food service packaging because there's food all over it. Nobody wants to buy that and turn it into something else. And then there was an article in a magazine called Biocycle that basically measured how much food scraps are diverted through the use of compostable packaging. And so what this composter did was they said, okay, I was working with this, I think it was a corporate campus, and they were measuring how much food was composted when they were using traditional food service packaging, right? Meaning asking people to put your half-eaten hamburger over here and then put your plate over here, and we're gonna try to compost this food. Well, when they went to compostable packaging and everyone could put everything in the same bin, the composter got 72% more food scraps. So it significantly increased what was staying out of the landfill. So that's a little bit about our industry and kind of the macro issues that are important to us. And that we're trying to address. I wanted to go into a little more detail on how we think about sustainability as a strategy within our business at EcoProducts. It really all starts with our vision and mission. EcoProducts is over 20 years old, and honestly, this is a confession, we went through our serious vision mission exercise only a handful of years ago. We knew what we were all about, but we hadn't really crystallized it and really boiled it down to what is the vision, what is the mission of our company. And that has been so helpful because now we're all aligned. We're all clear on, yep, this is what we're all about, this is what we're doing. And then we bring that passion then to our customers. This allows us to have the conversation to say we are focused on the issue of zero waste and the role that packaging can play in zero waste. That's very different than saying we're a packaging company, buy our cups, thank you very much, right? This is what I mentioned earlier that I wanted to go into a bit more detail on. We offer a number of services to our customers at no additional charge, because that's the way that we bring our mission to life, right? Like I said, we're not just going to sell the cups and call it a day, but we have, full-time sustainability person on staff, which actually used to be me. Since I gave Caitlin my job description, my job has changed, so now I'm in a marketing function, but we hired a new sustainability maven. And so he works with our customers to, if they want to do a custom poster to tell their story about using compostables or their green efforts, we have an in-house design team that will design the posters to help them tell the story. We have a great video team as well. If I had time, I would show you our video we did with Larkburger, but you can go to our YouTube channel to find that if you'd like to see that. And then, I mean, we basically offer zero waste consulting, right? So this is not easy. And so when a food service operator says, yeah, I want to use compostables, I want to try to set up a composting program, well, they need to find a composter. They need to train their staff. They need to educate all of their employees and whoever else is going to be, their customers. And so we help them throughout that whole part of the whole issue holistically. In terms of our strategy, we believe it's important to treat sustainability like any other important business metric, right? I mean, sales is important to us. Well, you know what? We measure sales and we report sales and we set goals on sales. So we should do the same thing for sustainability. And that's best captured in our annual sustainability report. We actually just issued our one for 2017 recently. We try to issue it around Earth Day every year. But that process is so helpful for us because it's an opportunity to step back and say, okay, what are we doing well? What did we commit to? What are we doing well? How can we continue to raise the bar and move the needle? And honestly, if we didn't do this report publicly, we might not stay as focused, right? I mean, when you put something in black and white on your website and you promote it on your social media channels, you're going to stay focused on it because a year from now, you're going to have to report how you did. Our approach is to be transparent. So we will say, you know what? We didn't do so hot on this goal, but here's why, and here's how we're going to try to do better. And the feedback we've gotten is that they appreciate that honesty. I think we get more credit for trying and failing and being honest about that failure than we would if we were to try to just gloss over or try to only talk about the good stuff, right? That's not genuine. That'd be disingenuous if we. So this gets to what I was saying earlier about having a strategy and thinking about sustainability that's specific to your company. When we first came out with our strategy, our framework had 3 pillars. It was climate change, natural resources, and social value. And so we had goals for each of those, sustainability goals. We then said, you know what, that's kind of generic. Anyone can talk about climate change, anyone can talk about natural resources, and anyone can talk about social value. What is it that is different about EcoProducts? How are we uniquely suited to addressing these issues? And for us, it comes down to zero waste. So this year, we reformatted our sustainability framework. And now our pillars are zero waste infrastructure, zero waste operators, meaning zero waste food service operators, products and people. And I'm really excited. I'm actually going to share some of those goals here in just a minute. But who really challenged us on this was our external sustainability advisory committee. When we decided we were going to do a sustainability report, that was my first year with the company. They hadn't done a formal report before I arrived, and I was, said we really need to prioritize this. We really need to be better about our reporting and our transparency. And part of that recommendation that I made to the leadership committee was we need to have an external advisory board that's going to come in and meet with us once a year and challenge us and tell us how we can be doing better. And so once a year we bring in a group of sustainability professionals to give us feedback. And one of their pieces of feedback was rethinking the framework. So it's been really, really helpful. So these are the sets of goals that we just established for ourselves around zero waste infrastructure and zero waste operators. So infrastructure meaning looking at the big picture level. What is EcoProducts doing to really push for more access to commercial composting at a national level? And then zero waste food service operators. How are we working with our customers and helping them implement zero waste programs? One of the goals we've actually tasked each of our sales reps to get one of their customers to implement a composting program that hasn't already. So we're tying this in directly to our sales teams. They're their goals and their bonuses, frankly. And we all know money talks, so that should be helpful. I did want to go into a little bit more depth on one of our particular goals, and that is to conduct basically waste audits or waste characterizations for 3 different types of food service operators. So one of the challenges we face in expanding access to infrastructure is that composters, there's not a lot of data out there, and so some composters are afraid of getting a truckload of cups. And from a nutrient perspective, that's not helpful in their process. Composters want the food. That's more beneficial to the compost than is always the packaging. And so what we need to do is we need to prove that if they take the packaging, they'll get the food, right? So in other words, repeating that study that I mentioned that was in the BioCycle article. So that's one of our goals this year. We did one of these projects for Farm Aid, that should say 2016, not 2061. We did not flash forward to the future. But Farm Aid, the concert to support local farms that was started by Willie Nelson and John Mellencamp and Neil Young a number of decades ago. We worked with them this year to do a study to see how much additional food scraps that was diverted at the music festival through the use of compostable packaging. And so the preliminary numbers were showing a significant increase in the capture of food that ended up at the commercial composter that was servicing the event. And then products and people. So I know everybody can talk about products and people, but that really is the foundation. You know, I kind of see the zero waste piece as a way EcoProducts can differentiate from a sustainability strategy perspective. People and the products are the foundation. If we are not being sustainable with our products that we're putting out there, and the people, all of our stakeholders, right, that are engaged in that, we're not going to go very far. And so that is the reason for these two aspects of our sustainability framework. So one specific example of a product goal that we set is to phase out a legacy product. So a number of years ago, well before my time, EcoProducts was expanding and we wanted to sell soup cups. Well, you're not going to sell soup cups if you don't have a lid to go on top of that soup cup, right? And at the time, there was no heat-tolerant compostable plastic on the market. So if we wanted to sell a soup cup, we had to sell a non-compostable virgin plastic lid to go with it. So we did, which we would never do today, but we did at the time. And now we all recognize that does not meet our standards. We want to walk that back. But we sell a lot of that lid, it's cheap, right? We're still a business. We make a lot of money off of it and it's profitable, but we know that if we are being true to ourselves, we have to take some hard decisions, make some hard decisions, and be willing to say we're gonna get rid of a profitable product in our catalog because it just doesn't align with our mission and our values. And what I want to share with you today is that even with a company like EcoProducts, that's still hard. We've been working on this for years. And we are really getting close. We've got a roadmap to get that out later this year. So my hope is that by 2018, we'll be able to finally check the box. And so I wanted to end on this just by saying it's never easy. It's never easy. There's always low-hanging fruit that can be easier than other projects to implement. But I don't think that's really necessarily where we can move the needle collectively. And so with that, I think I have a little bit of time for Q&A. And so I wanted to open it up to questions.
So what role does EcoProducts play with school systems of educating the children?
Yeah, so the question was, what role do we play with school systems in educating children specifically? So we do a lot of work at the college and university level. And at that level, they're pretty well educated. And so it's more supporting the sustainability offices within colleges and universities. And they've usually got a pretty good strategy outlined, and we just figure out how we can support that and provide them data, carbon footprint on their products, et cetera, et cetera. I think the greatest opportunity for education is at the lower levels, right, with the younger kids. And unfortunately, we do not do a lot of business with K through 12. That sector is so cost conscious, and often it's, unless a school district has said this is important to us, or the school district issued a mandate, it's really tough for us to do business with K through 12, which is really unfortunate. That said, though, we do, we have done, some work. There's a school in Longmont that one of our employees brought to our attention where a very high percentage of the students are on free and reduced lunch. And we made a donation to support their composting efforts at their school. We've donated product. They were doing a science experiment and they wanted to plant a bunch of plants in cups such as ours, so we've done donations. And it's something that I think we can look at. It's hard when we're not super connected to the K through 12 world in general. It's just been a little bit hard to make a lot of headway.
In round numbers, how much more expensive is the cost of going to a fully eco product line?
Yeah, if you compare us to styrofoam, it's a lot, right? I mean, it's like 2x.
Okay.
3x, yeah. But if you compare us to traditional rigid plastic, right, not foam, but traditional rigid plastic, it's getting closer. I mean, and it depends on how you buy and where you buy, and distribution in our industry is a bit crazy. But it can be in the 10 to 15% range. Yeah.
So we first met down in Houston at the Green Sports Alliance Summit.
Yes, we did.
And there's a lot of things that the Green Sports Alliance is doing that maybe you could share with us that we could bring to the Pet Sustainability Coalition?
Sure, yeah. So the Green Sports Alliance is an alliance of professional and college sports teams who recognize the potential of using sports as a way to raise awareness of environmental sustainability issues. And they've done. What I love about it is that, if you think of any community, how much passion there is around sports teams, right? And so it's such a high visibility way to really open people's minds to the potential. And so I think so if you Google Green Sports Alliance, I forget their URL, but they are pulling together sports teams to talk about best practices. And to educate one another on what's working and what they can do to be better not corporate citizens, but members of their community. They worked with the Natural Resources Defense Council to put together a great report called Raising the Bar, I believe it's called Raising the Bar. And it has awesome in-depth case studies from various sports teams all across the country on some of what they're doing to reduce energy and water, to increase their recycling and composting. And what a great way, because when you go to a sports game, you're in a good mood, right? You're having a good time. And so when a sports fan can hold a cup that has an environmental message on it, what a great opportunity. Even if they don't really understand the full issue or understand what commercial composting is, just seeing some sort of an environmental message on that cup, it's a way to at least plant a seed, right, in the sports teams and the sports fans' minds. Is there any other specific ones that you had in mind you wanted to share?
One of the things that we talked about at the Pet Sustainability Coalition is some sort of a label on our packaging. We don't want to get into being a certification thing, but what you just talked about with EcoProducts as a stamp and Green Sports Alliance as a stamp, and how maybe we could best use the PSC logo as a way to spread the word, because at the conference they talked about how the number one influencer, maybe that's the wrong word, but the one thing that more people are passionate about than anything else in their life is sports. And number two is pets.
Yeah, absolutely. So in case you didn't hear, he was saying how at the Green Sports Alliance, they were talking about how people are really passionate about sports, and number two being pets. And so you're right. I think I hadn't even thought about that similarity, but that is an excellent point. And the issue of labels and logos is tricky because there are so many labels out there, there are so many logos out there, and people can kind of get fatigued or not really understand what something means. But I think with the Pet Sustainability Coalition, there's definitely an opportunity to raise awareness of what does that logo mean, and then if the customers or whomever can come to your website or other channels to get more information on what you're trying to do. I think you've got such a receptive audience in the customers because of how passionate people are.
I have a question. You mentioned something about paid bonuses being tied to sustainability performance. Can you talk about more employee engagement initiatives that you have to keep your team engaged in the long term and to be part of the solution?
Absolutely. So we have something that we call our sustainability squad at EcoProducts, and that's really the primary way in which we engage most of our employees. So, I realized pretty quickly after I started that just because I had sustainability in my title and EcoProducts is all about sustainability, that doesn't mean that we were really engaging our employees in sustainability, right? I mean, there are people who would just sit at their desk and do their job, and sustainability is probably not a part of it day to day for a lot of people. And so we started our sustainability squad as a way to give employees an opportunity to have a voice and to be involved. And so the way that we manage it is we have lunch once a month. Anybody in the company is invited. We have the lowest level all the way up to our VP of sales who attends whenever he's in town and can make it. The company pays for lunch. That's always nice, right? Always a good way to get people around the table. But the way that I was facilitating those meetings was basically to open it up to ideas and discussion. And so employees would have an opportunity to contribute ideas, to own projects, and to bring them to life. So for example, every year around Earth Day for April, we would brainstorm all sorts of stuff that we could do throughout the month. We would show a sustainability themed movie and get pizza for the lunch. We would do a sustainability-themed scavenger hunt around Boulder. We would give employees the opportunity to bring in their electronics, and we worked with a local recycler that would actually pick up the electronics and then recycle them for our employees. So I think one of the reasons that has been the most successful is because it is truly employee-driven. They don't come and say, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but it's really bottom up. And so I think when it comes to integrating sustainability at an organization, it's both top down and bottom up that are of equal importance.
We have time for one more question, and maybe if there's another voice in the room. Okay, Chris, it's you.
Sorry. I'm curious, in your last 3 companies, you've always been the sustainability maven, and now you've gone to marketing. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about the intersection there, given greenwashing and companies not telling their story enough. So could you maybe comment on that?
Yeah, I will say that when I made the transition from a sustainability role to a marketing role, I realized that at EcoProducts, it's like a Venn diagram where there's sustainability in one circle, marketing's another, and there's a whole lot of overlap, but there's also a whole lot around the edge, that's different. But at EcoProducts, one of the reasons why I feel fortunate to be in the marketing role is because sustainability, we're trying as hard as we can to make it meaningfully be a part of our brand, and it's not just a marketing ploy, if you will, obviously. The issue of greenwashing is really frustrating and really rampant in our industry. There are a whole lot of products out there that are made to look greener than they are, that are made to lead you to believe that they're compostable and they're not. And that's a challenge. And so that's what drives us to make sure that we do our homework, we check the boxes, we're very clear, we're very transparent, because if we got caught greenwashing, if you will, or if we made a claim that we couldn't back up, our credibility would evaporate. And why would you then, how could we charge a premium if we're saying we're eco-products, but meh, And so it's really the greenwashing that drives us to be as committed as we are, because we see what we don't want to be.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.